Greetings, War Thunderers. This is Longshot with you again. In this video I'll demonstrate how to fly the A6M2-N, continuing my series on neglected or underrated arcade fighter planes. Let me say at the outset that I personally don't see any problems with this plane. In fact, I think it's an absolute beast, despite the high-tier enemies it regularly encounters. However, it seems quite a few people are having trouble with it, mainly because it's a slow and fragile plane facing fast and powerful enemies. Its flight model changed in patch 1.39 and apparently its cannons were nerfed, so it was definitely worth flying to assess its current capabilities. Anyway, I've jam-packed as much info as I can into this video, which is why it's a little long, and I'm hoping it proves helpful. So to start with, this Zero is armed with 2 light machine guns on the nose and 2 20mm cannon on the wings. With wing-mounted cannon, convergence is important, and I've set mine to 300 meters. For ammo, you should choose the tracer belt, which consists only of high explosive rounds. We'll be attacking other fighters, not bombers or ground targets, so armor-piercing rounds are not necessary. The machine guns are pretty much useless. I've set them to stealth and I basically ignore them. So here's a summary of the tactics I'm going to discuss and demonstrate throughout the video. And these are the strategies I employ for ground strike, and for domination. And before I started making this vid, I'd flown the Rufe 41 times for 52 kills with 24 deaths, most of which was prior to patch 1.37. That's not a brilliant record by any means, but it's not bad for a turn fighter. Over the next 15 flyouts I've killed 44 planes and died 5 times, one of which was an internet dropout. I consider myself an average pilot, so to me this is proof of the effectiveness of the tactics I use, which anyone else can follow. So as this whole plane's purpose is killing other fighters, the first thing I'll show you is the correct firing angle. You don't want to chase people around sitting on their tail, and you certainly don't want to go head on. What you're looking for are deflection shots like these. I'll just run through a series of vids to demonstrate them. Ideally you want the angle to be less than 90 degrees. If it's greater than that, the enemy plane is approaching you, and your shells will have less time on target in the convergence zone, which means you'll miss a lot. Like that. So we all know that this plane can thrive in a furball, but did you know it can also make diving attacks? Note its rolling speed in the dive. That's not what you expect from a Zero. That's not all, it's also pretty good at rope-a-doping enemies at high altitude. In this example I blindsided that P-47, taking advantage of his tunnel vision. And again, that's a perfect deflection shot. So thinking he'd be angry at dying to a lowly float plane, I climbed higher, expecting him to come looking for me after he spawned. And he didn't disappoint. He stalled himself out, so that is so easy. This is a more risky example of a rope-a-dope where I wanted the enemy to climb in order to escape the attentions of other fighters. It was risky because the Zero lacked the speed to zoom climb like this, so I ended up coming under his gunfire. But nevertheless, that was enough to kill his engine. So that's how to kill planes, but it's only one half of the story. More important by far is how to survive. Many pilots will see you as cannon fodder and come looking for you, so you need to practice and master some evasive maneuvers. I'll start with dodging head-ons using the snap roll. You can initiate this at around 1 kilometre. In my experience, very few pilots can hit you, and you gain energy in the manoeuvre which you can then use to dogfight if the enemy turns. In this example, my wings are shot up badly and I can barely roll, but it still works. With this move in your toolkit, you can confidently face attackers head-on and not only survive, but tempt them into dogfighting you. I cannot imagine flying this plane without that manoeuvre. How about when an enemy's closing in from behind? Well, here I have good speed, so I'm waiting till that 190 is in firing range, and then I'll use WEP in a sharp vertical loop. I should probably have added some rudder as well to make it even sharper. And because he turned to try and get guns on me, there, I will soon have him in my sights. Here's another example of the same thing, except I was unaware the attacker was on me, and at first I used terrain as a shield before I looped. The aim of the loop is to either force an overshoot or to make the enemy lose speed trying to follow you in the climb. It's a KI-43, and we start a flat scissors, except I'm going to follow him around as I'm confident I can just turn inside him. I deploy flaps to turn sharper still. And he makes a mistake there, and I have him with a perfect deflection shot. One more time. This time I brake to the side to avoid a P-40 coming from behind, and then straight into a flat scissors, which he can't hope to match. He's overshot, and that's that. Sometimes enemies will be above you, which means you need to watch them like a hawk. This guy seems oblivious, so I'll try a climbing attack, but I immediately duck away from the head-on. Now he's going to try and zoom climb here, but he hasn't the energy and he's much too close to me. He's lucky I missed him there. Could easily have got the kill if I'd aimed straighter, and now he's diving away and his advantage is lost. This time I have a lag who's all too aware of me, and he's trying to boom and zoom me. Again, I must watch him closely and turn hard when he's diving, which he is now. Then try and climb after him as he zoom climbs. I want to gain altitude between attacks, and thus eliminate his advantage. And that's one thing this Zero is very good at. I'll level out well before I stall, which is around now, and now I've climbed 700 meters higher than I was before his first attack. He was coming again, so I'm going to climb to meet his dive and then snap roll to dodge the head-on. You can see I was narrowing his advantage, but a Spitfire came to my rescue, and eventually he's forced to dive away to safety. I'd like to briefly mention the ability of this plane to survive rams, especially when they hit the float. That enemy plane was in ruins, but this plane is perfectly okay. I'm not suggesting you go out ramming people though. So that was a huge amount covered very quickly, but I'm just getting started. It's time to put those tactics to work in a wider strategy, but first I want to stress one thing. Always avoid combat in clouds. Turn fighters need visibility to survive, and when you're in a cloud you have none. And if enemies mark you as a target, it means their friends can see you. And this is the inevitable result. It's always the plane you don't see that kills you. Here's a common situation in both domination and ground strike maps when you're in a defensive role. I call it the flood, when a stack of enemies spawn at once and arrive in a big attacking wave. There's no point meeting it head on. Retreat in front of it, and then when your own wave of friendlies arrive, you can turn and fight. So my main strategy in domination maps is to hang out between 1,500 metres and 2,500 metres altitude, patrolling above an airfield, in this case the central one. I do nothing until a target presents itself. In this case someone's moving into cap, no one's picked him up, so it's time to dive in for a boom and zoom kill. That's just too easy. And I'll climb and extend away, keeping a sharp eye on what the enemy's doing. If need be, of course, I'll stay down there and fight, as that's what this plane is good at. So I better attend to that sneaky capper, pinching my home base. This is all basic domination stuff. You'd do this in any plane. But the special ability of any float plane is, of course, landing on runways. Who'd have thought? And the Zero is a master at it. Just slam it down for an instant cap and you're up and away again. Much faster than any normal plane can manage. Here I demonstrate the danger of settling in on the tail of an enemy. Not only do I fail to shoot him down, my shells go on to kill a friendly in front of him. Sorry about that, mate. But check out this cap. That's just ridiculous. Okay, time for some ground strike. I'll start with the high road. Yes, you can climb way up here and have a great time destroying dive bombers. I could show you some of that, but Stukas and Dauntless are easy kills. I'd only bore you. It's far more interesting when there's fighters climbing up at you, like this BF-109 is down there, so I'm playing the rope-a-dope game. It's inevitable that this will happen if you go to altitude, as you look like such an easy target. In fact, that's the whole point of doing this. Just watching him and keeping above him. And looking around to make sure no one else is sneaking up. He's being very careful. But I'll try a dive in case he's taken his eye off me. Just see what happens. Look at him spin and weave. He's definitely aware of me, so I'll break off and climb once more. And I can't afford to get too low as I'm over enemy territory, and I'm likely to get mobbed if I do. Okay, so I'm back on my perch, and he's climbing again. There is a friendly coming in to attack him, but no, he's killed the friendly, so this guy's a bit of a problem. There's also a Dauntless who's spawned, who may decide that I'm a free kill if I'm not careful as well, but with any luck I'll get a break from that 109 and I'll have a chance to kill the Dauntless. But the 109's getting too close for comfort, so I'll try another attack. No, he's much too alert. Okay, I have to climb again. And now that Dauntless will be getting pretty close, I imagine. Yep, there he is. And yes, he does want to attack. Not today, mate. Hang on, who's firing all those traces? Ouch, a B-25. And now the 109's climbed into range and he's letting loose. And the Dauntless is still attacking. This is getting hairy. Oh, if only I could aim. I certainly can't afford to shoot at him for long. I have to keep dodging or I'm dead. So I'm going to keep climbing whenever possible, as if I lose height in this dogfight, that would be the end of me. Now a bowfighter's joining in. Starting to think I've outstayed my welcome. Now any one of these I could have managed one-on-one, but a group is a different story. But I do seem to have created a diversion, which I love doing, as you may know from my earlier vids. If my team's any good, they'll capitalise and kill ground targets while half their team's up here dogfighting me. Okay, that was risky, but it was worth it if I got him. Okay, it's time to make myself scarce. So I'm going to dive and snap roll in the dive to spoil their aim and to stop myself getting too fast so they might overshoot. Now I'm going to use the terrain to my advantage. So the minimap says there's 2 attackers left. I obviously can't outrun them, so I'll suddenly loop hard and make them overshoot, as they do. See, I told you Dauntless were easy to kill. Anyway, now my engine's dead. I'll take shelter on the river, as the battle's just about over anyway. This plane refuses to die. So out of one battle and into the next. Here I've climbed at the start and I see at least 4 enemy fighters have done the same and are heading my way, and no one else on my team have climbed at all. So I'll fly away to give them the opportunity to dive, but it's soon obvious that they aren't and that I'm their primary target. So it's time to surrender the high ground and dive for cover. If they want to attack me, they'll need to follow to ground level right in front of my spawn. I've got to keep eyes both on the enemies and where I'm going. It'd be embarrassing to smash into a cliff. So here's where the sheer stubbornness of some arcade players comes to the fore. I was certain that at least one of them would still go ahead and attack me. And I was right. Here he comes. Hello, Mr. 109. Now you're down here, why not stay for a dogfight? Why, thank you, Longshot. Don't mind if I do. Okay, so the other ground strike strategy is of course to be defensive. You choose a base or a column of tanks, something you know that will attract enemies, and you patrol above it at mid-altitude, waiting for them to arrive. In this case, it's patrol boats. I'm just going to wait for an opening. There's no rush. The battle will come to me, especially on this map. Always look for the enemy behind a trail. This guy's got no one on him, so he's my target. I've got to keep looking around and at the minimap, and flying evasively as if I'm under attack, even when I'm not. If I don't, then sooner or later I'll be dead. Those red dots are above me. Even if I hadn't spotted them, my evasive flying would have protected me if they'd dived. So down they come. Let the furball begin. This is just a matter of trying to keep track of all of the enemy planes, choose the best target of opportunity, try not to let any of them get behind you, and try not to get too fixated on one target when there's a chance that in doing so, you'll get sniped by someone else. In this case, I've still got a fairly good deflection angle on him. It was slight, but it was there. And as I retreat to reload, I'm flying evasively again, just in case. Be paranoid, they really are out to get you. Hope you don't mind my skipping the boring parts. The video's long enough as it is. So always get the easy kill. If you don't, someone else will. And you can't afford to let enemies escape. Here's more evidence of how poor that frontal attack angle is. You really need planes firing with central cannon, not wing mounted, and also a much higher rate of fire for that to be effective. This angle is much better. Simply because he was hanging in the air, gave me more time to get guns on him. Same thing here. This kind of furballing is very easy in this plane. Most important thing is situational awareness. If you keep track of what's happening around you, you won't get blindsided. And if you're not blindsided, there's no way they should be able to kill you. You can see that snap roll gives me nothing to fear from a P-63 coming head on. Now I won't stay on him when I missed him, as there's someone else letting off cannon rounds at him, and I don't want this Yak-9T sneaking up on me. It was better to turn and face him instead. Now at this point they flew away, so there was a bit of a break. Okay. Is that I-185 isolated from the others? I double and triple check before I commit to the attack. And here's what I love about War Thunder. Any plane can kill any other plane. Just one more example of that bad frontal attack angle. What I really should have done is flown a bit beyond him, then looped in onto his tail, instead of wasting time and shells on a firing angle that rarely works. Well, some nice awards there. So that's what this plane can do, and it really is fun to fly. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I certainly enjoyed making it, though I'm sorry the pace was so frenetic. The KI-61 will be next. Don't forget to vote for your favourite plane on the forum, and until then, I'll see you in the skies.